Penguin Random House Audio presents The Kitchen Front by Jennifer Ryan. Read for you by Jasmine Blackborow. Note to listeners, this program includes a downloadable PDF that contains recipes from the book. To my sister Alison, with love and gratitude. Round 1. Starter. Wartime food rations for 1 adult for 1 week. 4 ounces bacon or ham, around 4 rashers of bacon. Meat to the value of 1 shilling and 2pence. 2 pounds mincemeat or 1 pound steaks or joint. 2 ounces cheese, a 2-inch cube. 4 ounces margarine, 8 tablespoons. 2 ounces butter, 4 tablespoons. 3 pints of milk. 8 ounces sugar, 1 cup. 2 ounces jam, 4 tablespoons. 2 ounces loose leaf tea, makes around 15 to 20 cups. 1 fresh egg, plus 1 packet dried egg powder, making 12 eggs every month. 3 ounces sweets or candy. Sausages, fish, vegetables, flour and bread are not rationed but often hard to get. Canned food, like sardines, treacle and spam, are on the new points plan and can only be bought using your extra monthly 24 points. Source: a compilation of Ministry of Food printed materials. Mrs. Audrey Landon. Willow Lodge, Fenley Village, England, June 1942. A glorious spring morning poured its golden splendor through the tall kitchen window as a whirlwind of boys raced in, shooting at each other in a ramshackle reconstruction of Dunkirk. "Get out of here!" Audrey whooshed them out with the dishcloth. The aroma of bubbling berries, raspberries, strawberries, red currants filled the big old kitchen as a slim woman of 40 added a touch of cinnamon, a touch of nutmeg. With a man's sweater tucked into a man's trousers, she looked hassled and unkempt, her old boots muddy from the vegetable garden. The wooden clock on the wall chimed the half-hour, and she wiped the back of her hand on her forehead. Oh, nonsense. Is it 8:30 already? She strode to the kitchen dresser to turn up the crackling wireless radio, which sat among a jumble of pots and a pile of freshly pulled carrots. While most people kept their radio sets in the living room, Audrey had hauled hers into the kitchen when she began furiously baking to make a few extra shillings. That had been just after the war began 2 years ago, when her husband Matthew's plane was shot down over Dusseldorf. No trace of him was ever found. In various moments, she tried to stop herself picturing his body, so intimate and dear to her, broken on treetops or burned by an engine fire. His lifeblood spilled over the enemy's 7th largest city. Ever since his death, she had been run off her feet. Audrey had long given up trying to be like a normal person. Every spare moment was given over to baking, anything to make extra pennies, and she often worked long into the night. With 3 needy boys, debt demands coming weekly, and an old mansion house falling apart around her, normality had flown out the dusty windows years ago. And that didn't even take into consideration the pig and the hens, her sizable garden, now given over to fruits and vegetables, the precious extra ingredients that made her pies and cakes. Exhaustion, disillusionment, and that panicky feeling that everything was running out of control had set up home in her heart. For the sake of the children, she worked hard to keep her anguish at bay, hugging them through their grief while thrusting her own down into her belly until the middle of the night. It was deemed bad spirit to show tears. Mr. Churchill had drummed that into them. Collective despair could bring the nation to its knees. Things weren't going well for Britain. Even with the propaganda, the BBC Radio News couldn't hide the desperation. The British hadn't been prepared for war. Her cities had been pounded by the Luftwaffe. Her troops were fighting hard in North Africa, and Nazi U-boats were blocking imports of arms, metals, and, most crucial, food. The upper-class voice of the presenter, Mr. Ambrose Hart, drawled through the high-ceilinged old room. Presenting the kitchen front, the cookery program helping Britain's housewives make the most of wartime food rations. Let's hear what nonsense Ambrose Hart has to say today, Audrey said to herself, tasting a drop of her bubbling berries. They oozed with ripeness. The tang from the red currants pulled the sweetness back, and she had added a teaspoon of sugar to help it along. The government let you have extra sugar for jam making, if you chose to forego your jam ration. Most of this went into the pies Audrey made to sell, much to the boys' dismay. Often they had to go without sugar and jam for weeks at a time. But she needed the money. A few months ago, the bank had called in the loans, threatening to repossess the house. It was a sum far beyond her means, even with her widow's pension. She couldn't sell the house. It was her home. And Matthew's. And besides, it was in far too bad a state. Part of the roof had collapsed. In the end, she had been forced to seek help where she least desired. And ever since, she had been nudged by regret as to what it had cost her. A bread omelette, Ambrose Hart on the wireless explained, will stretch a single egg to feed a hungry family of 4 for breakfast. Soak 2 cupfuls of breadcrumbs in milk made from powder for 10 minutes. Stir them into a beaten egg, or the equivalent in egg powder, and then cook, as usual. Bread omelette. Is that the best Ambrose can come up with? Audrey said, as her eldest son, a gangly 15-year-old, strolled in, his nose in a book. Alexander was the eldest of her boys, the A of the ABC Landons, as they were known. B was Ben, a boisterous 11-year-old, and C was 8-year-old Christopher, who'd been petrified of everything since a bomb came down over a neighbour's house a year ago. The other boys had recovered from the shock, but little Christopher still slept with her every night. He showed no interest in altering this arrangement, even with the nightly air raids dwindling. Their fraught trudges down to the makeshift Addison shelter in the garden, armed with a few oatmeal buns, were subsiding into memory, where Audrey hoped they'd stay. Audrey knew she relied on Alexander too much, and that it was only a matter of time until he would be called up too. It was impossible to stop him from going. He would follow his father's footsteps into the Air Force. She prayed, not also to his grave. She unthinkingly etched his face into her memory. "Darling," she said, chopping scrubbed carrots, including their feathery greens, "can you fetch the ration books and tell me what we have left for this week?" Alexander pulled 4 small black booklets out of a cloth bag. Since everyone in the house was over 6 years old, they had identical adult ration books, issued from the local food office in the nearby town of Middleton. The boys got extra milk, concentrated orange juice, and an orange when available. It was illegal for an adult to eat an orange. Less popular was the cod liver oil all children also received, although Ben patently refused it. Audrey had heard that some mothers used it to fry fish when cooking oil was very low. Leafing through each book, Alexander found the right week and checked the boxes that had been stamped or cut out. All used, except margarine and some of that nasty dried egg powder. Thank goodness we have the hens. Audrey strode over to check. Oh dear, I need more butter.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?